Hi, this is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where today we're talking about Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. More specifically, we're focusing on 50-cent lesson in persistence. That 50-cent lesson is in the first chapter, and pages are different for everybody's book. But the PDF that I am going to be reading from, and those who have access to it in the chat area and in the live stream, this is part of chapter 1, and we are on page 13, a 50-cent lesson in persistence. And yes, I'm going to read a story because it is very short, and I want your reactions to the story. I want to know what thoughts it brought up and how can we move forward with the day today? What kind of lesson can we take from this? Is it inspiring? Is it motivating? I don't know. You're going to tell me because I don't know. Again, page 13. A 50-cent lesson in persistence. Shortly after Mr. Darby received his degree from the University of Hard Knocks and had decided to profit by his experience in the gold mining business, he had the good fortune to be present on an occasion that proved to him that no doesn't necessarily mean no. One afternoon, he was helping his uncle grind wheat in an old-fashioned mill. The uncle operated a large farm on which a number of colored sharecrop farmers lived. Quietly, the door was opened and a small colored child, the daughter of a tenant, walked in and took her place near the door. The uncle looked up, saw the child, and barked at her roughly, "What do you want?" Meekly, the child replied, "My mammy say send her 50 cents. "I'll not do it," the uncle retorted. "Now you run on home." "Yes'm," the child replied, but she did not move. The uncle went ahead with his work, so busily engaged that he did not pay enough attention to the child to observe that she did not leave. When he looked up and saw her still standing there, he yelled at her, "I told you to go home. Now go, or I'll take a switch to you." The little girl said, "Yes'm," but she didn't budge an inch. The uncle dropped a sack of grain he was about to pour into the mill hopper, picked up a barrel stave, and started toward the child with an expression on his face that indicated trouble. Darby held his breath. He was certain he was about to witness a murder. He knew his uncle had a fierce temper. He knew that colored children were not supposed to defy white people in that part of the country. When the uncle reached the spot where the child was standing, she quickly stepped forward one step, looked up into his eyes, and screamed at the top of her shrill voice, "My mammy's got to have that 50 cents. The uncle stopped, looked at her for a minute, then slowly laid the barrel stave on the floor, put his hand in his pocket, took out $50 and gave it to her. The child took the money and slowly backed toward the door, never taking her eyes off the man whom she had just conquered. After she had gone, the uncle sat down on a box, looked out the window into space for more than 10 minutes. He was pondering with awe over the whipping he had just taken. Mr. Darby, too, was doing some thinking. That was the first time in all his experience that he had seen a colored child deliberately master an adult white person. How did she do it? What happened to his uncle that caused him to lose his fierceness and become as docile as a lamb? What strange power did this child use that made her master over her superior? These and other similar questions flashed into Darby's mind, but he did not find the answer until years later when he told me, the author, the story. Strangely, the story of this unusual experience was told to the author in the old mill on the very spot where the uncle took his whipping. Strangely, too, I had devoted nearly a quarter of a century to the study of the power which enabled an ignorant, illiterate, colored child to conquer an intelligent man. As we stood there in that dusty, musty old mill, Mr. Darby repeated the story of the unusual conquest and finished by asking, "What can you make of it? What strange power did that child use that so completely whipped my uncle?" Of course, the answer to this question will be found in the principles described in this book. The answer is full and complete. It does contain details and instructions sufficient to enable anyone to understand and apply the same force which the little child accidentally stumbled upon. I'm back. I'm sorry about that. Sorry. I lost my remote, my mouse. Never quit, no excuses. What else are we getting out of that short story? I like it. Never quit, no excuses. Thoughts, confidence. Okay. Excellent. What else did we get? What else came to your mind as I was reading aloud or you were reading along the story? Persistence. Never quit. No excuses. Confidence. Persistence. If one is determined enough, they can overcome anything others say can't happen. Determination. Okay. What else we got? No is not an option. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good stuff here. What else do you all get from this? You have never quit, no excuses, confidence, persistence, determination. If one is determined enough, they can overcome anything others say can't happen. No is not an option. I think these are great. What else did you get? Age is not a determining factor in overcoming. Ooh, I like it. Yeah, Cindy. The guy that gave the money realized no was an option. There you go, Matt. There's two people in the story, right? The desire is what drives us, okay? What else we got? Any other thoughts? I know you're sitting and you're thinking, have a sip of coffee. Aha, looks can be deceiving. Great. Do we know what she needed the money for? Matt, that's an excellent question. And honestly, I don't think it matters. She's a young child and her mother said, go get the money. So how about responsibility? Right? Her mother gave her the responsibility to get the money and she felt that responsibility. It was on her to get that money. Yeah, it's much more than just persistence, isn't it? As with all of these principles, it's much more than just persistence. I love what you guys are coming up with. What else have you got? How about faith? Did that come into play? Oh, nice question. Do we do what someone tells us to do because they are our elder? Listening to elders, something that seems to be fading in some generations. Okay. Now see, that's a good question. Just because there are elder or in some capacity superior, in this case superior because he was an adult, she was a child. Back in the day when this was written, he was white and she was black. Of course, that doesn't apply today, but that's the dynamic that's happening. He was the man in charge. He was the owner of the mill. She was a child of a tenant on the land. So the dynamics of the relationship could be that he was the boss and she was the worker. That was the relationship that I saw there. It wasn't a mentor, coach, guide relationship. It was a business relationship. Ah, speaking of the mother telling her to get the money. That's very different. See where I went with that? So for the moment, can we stick with the adult male and the young child? All right. She may have made money and action more of a priority than he did. These are all things we can take away for today, can't we? All things we can put into our minds right now to say, hey, what am I doing? Where's my persistence level? What have I got in front of me that I'm hitting a wall with? Even if it's a small wall, even if it's not as scary as a big adult male holding, a barrel stave, right? Which is the iron metal piece that goes around the barrel. I mean, scary stuff coming at you. Even if, right? Gets a little scary. What's in our way? No barriers, right? And Matt's responding to do we listen to our elders? An interesting question to ponder is whether she got it because she was told or the mother explained why. How old was the child? All of those factors for this purpose of discussion, I don't believe are necessary. No, I think that'll take us off track. And get us off focus, which could be her, as Betsy's saying. Kids don't put as many things in the way as we do. Yeah, there's a level of trust that her mother put in her to get the job done. She felt the level of trust and responsibility put on her shoulders to get the job done. He was an obstacle, but she was focused on getting the job done. So it's a matter of she wasn't thinking except this is what I was told to do. So why can't we do that? This is what I focused my thoughts on today. This is what I told myself I would get done today. This is what is on my list. You all know I have a list. I live with lists. This is what gets my attention today. This is what I'm going to do. How many no's did I get to my request for a meeting with somebody? How many times do you persist and do it anyway and ask again? Do you believe strongly enough in what you are working toward? Do you have enough faith in yourself and the people around you and what you're doing that when it gets a little bit scary, when there's an obstacle there, that you're going to continue the forward momentum? Yeah, Betsy, when you want something bad enough, no obstacle will get in your way. We find another way or path. We do. But in this case, it was simply persistence because he was the end goal. He had the end goal in his pocket. So it had to be him that she received the 50 cents from. It had to be him. She couldn't get it anyplace else. So what she did, the only way out in that case is through. And so what she did, when you're saying find another way or path, no obstacle will get in her way, I think what comes to my mind is that she stopped being nice about asking. She was polite, saying yes, sir. Saying this is just being persistent in the statement that this is what I'm here for. And when it got scary, when it looked like that there was a huge objection in front of her, she just raised her voice and put everything she had into it. So she took no was not an option. No. What she had inside her was more powerful than the annoyance that he felt about having to put attention to a child. Right? Fantastic stuff here. So what else we got? Have you got things on your plate that you've been avoiding or that you've been working towards, and there's that one person, place, or thing that has to be in place before you can move forward or have success in a project or in a task today? Or it could have been yesterday, or it could be tomorrow. But the end goal is there's money in somebody's pocket. They are the only ones, or that place is the only place, or that thing is the only thing that's all that's lacking. That's all that's needed. And you're getting objections, you're getting rebuffed, or you're getting no's, but they're not real strong no's. And you know there's a way. You know there's a way to talk, to connect, to contact, to show up. You just haven't figured it out yet. Yes, Matt is saying she was confident enough to get him to yield. So what can we take from that? What I'm taking from this is that she took a step forward. My thought was, this is my thought, is take a step back, take a breath, review what's not working. All right, what haven't I tried yet? Because I've not exhausted everything. I have met very few people who actually do go through the entire list of possible actions. I'm one of them. I've not exhausted every option. But if I can't think of any others, now it's time to consult with somebody that I trust or that I know has succeeded in a particular area. What have you done? How do you do it? Walk away, right? Betsy's always said, go for a walk. And I love that. Yeah, go outside. Take a breath of the crisp morning air. Clear the head. Just for a moment, and then get back to it. Now that's assuming I have time and I'm in a position to do that. What if they're right in front of me? What if you are on a phone call or a video conference? You're in a sales situation here, right? Good morning, Betsy.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Love your thoughts over here.
I was just thinking, like, I'm my biggest obstacle.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, when I flip from the PMA to the NMA, or it's like I see the possibilities and then I scratch them off. Well, no, and I can't, call her,
Well, there you go. Okay,
yeah.
So stop right there. You just described exactly what I do, and so many of us do. We think about the other options, and that's what I mean. We don't exhaust them. We think we do. Because it's like, well, so I'm going to list all the things that I could be doing differently. And then I think them through instead of doing them to prove that they don't work. That's the biggest thing and biggest breakthrough I've had for myself over the past years. And others seem to really resonate with is that, oh, you mean I can't just like have the whole conversation in my head and then say it's not going to work? No, you can't.
Well, you can, but the thing is like there's really a power in declaring something and then making it happen rather than being attached to the outcome. I know that on an intellectual level. I don't always do that, but when I do that, even something small, it's very powerful. If we're always trying to like set up the right conditions and the right timing and everything has to be just so before we go for it, will it really who would get married and have kids, really?
Yeah, if you knew what it was all about, are you kidding?
Would you really know, like if you had it all figured out, like, that would never happen. Who would, we wouldn't be here. So, yeah, I think that there's something to be said for that. And it goes back to that whole desire and, when obstacles arise or circumstances, there's always going to be that. Always.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you just shared with us that I'm in wholeheartedly agree with is when we figure out the ways around the obstacle, whether that's through discussions with somebody else, we're actually given, I mean, we've talked about this yesterday, given a list of what to do next, because we'll do this, right? I will. I will. If I go to a part of the list and it's like, maybe I can ignore that part.
Yeah. Cross it off.
Right. Right. That part, that doesn't suit my personality. Yeah, that's me. Actually, what I'm saying is that anxiety ridden the minute I see it, right?
Yeah.
But we review everything that we could do, but then don't do it and declare that, well, nothing works.
Yeah. Before we even try it.
Yeah.
Before we give it a shot.
You didn't put it to use. You didn't put it into action. You didn't do what I said you needed to do in order to get that done the way it needed to get done. So you got different results than I did. So go back and do it the way I told you to do it. This is, what's going through my head. Gwen, the gal I used to have coffee with. No, this is not my, she's a member of my committee. She's an older woman I used to have coffee with before she passed away. And that's what she would say. Well, you didn't do it the way I told you to.
Oh. That how does that feel? I don't like to be told how to do anything, but
I went to her looking for, for how do I do this? I go to those who are in my mastermind groups, those who are members in my mastermind groups. They do the same thing. This is what we told you to do. And what's interesting is many won't be called on it. Many won't be called on it like that because it's a short-term group. Long-term groups, trust me, they're going to call you on it. They're going to say, you didn't do it the way I told you to. That's why it didn't work.
Do you think that's true, that somebody else knows exactly how to do whatever it is? And I mean, I don't believe in shit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know that
there's a reason. Listen, so look at it. This is the way I look at it. I am persistent when I'm a one-track minded gal. When this is what I'm known for. If I sink my teeth into something, I am a moving train. You do want to get out of my way because that dogged determination can really affect personal relationships. But if while I'm doing things, and I don't care if it's marketing, if it's sales, if it's creating a product, if it's working with a team, something's not working the way I do things. And I approach you, Betsy, and say, so this is what I'm doing, but it's not working. What would you do? And you tell me, and it works for you, and I don't do that. Then I can't come back to you. I do, but I can't come back to you and expect you to defend anything that you told me because I didn't do what you told me to do.
Well, you didn't.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand. I guess in my mind, I'm thinking, like to go to people that know about something and you need, whatever we need support with and working with the group. And I get that. At the same time, something that, like, there's certain things like clearly step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you do da da da, and this is, this is the result. But then there's gray area and there's like everybody kind of does things a different way or maybe interprets it differently or whatever. Sure. So I guess. But I'm going to throw this out there.
This is what's coming to my mind is that how I work is if you give me a recipe, whether it's a recipe to create columns and formulas in Excel spreadsheet, it's a recipe to cook something, it's a recipe for a sales process, a sales script, right, to walk through. The way I look at it is I learn to do it the way it's written first. Then I can nuance it a bit. Then I can bring more of me into it. Sometimes it happens quickly. Sometimes it's, I got this and boom, we're done. That's it. Hey, I got this. Now I can relax because it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, right? Or it wasn't as tough as I thought it was. Or it might take, I mean, this is why I have a series of workshops, like with social selling. All right, let me put when I teach social selling, especially somebody who's like me, who's very hesitant to just outright ask for an order, we go through a process. And there's a series of steps that get the person ready to be able to walk through the process, because it's very different than the old sales tactics. It works, but it's new. And so when I train somebody in it, I walk them through, and they come back to me, and we'll do a little bit of role play, and they come back. I no, I want you to do it this way. Follow this sequence because it's proven to work.
Yeah,
okay.
I guess that's
proven to work. Yeah. So as they're doing that and they're learning that sequence, just as I did, I learned the sequence. Now I can start adding who I am to the activity. But, you know, if like in this story about persistence, you know, I doubt very seriously she was given instruction other than what she knew to do when approaching an adult, to be polite. All right. She was given that instruction, and she did that, but it didn't work. So now she had to come out. So she put herself into it, and by gosh, at the top of her little voice, she just let her rip. You know, it had to be done. So now she put herself into the process that any other time would have worked. That's the way I'm looking at it. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's also the way I believe about training. That's why you learn a skill or a tactic or a process or a system or a communication the way it's written, so that you know what it is and you understand the whys of it, and then you can massage it. If you start massaging too early, like in the beginning of the learning process, this is my experience, because I will do this. I'm not kidding. Somebody gives me the list of the steps, I will take one out.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to do it my way.
Exactly. And I deserve when Gwen or others look at me and just say, well, but that's not how you told you to do it. And I do the same thing with those that I'm mentoring now and I'm working with now. That's how I told you to do it. You know?
Well, then we could justify work, right? Then we could do that thing. Right?
Yeah, we see, that's why it doesn't work, is because you didn't tell me right.
Yeah, we can make up like a lot of stuff about like why it didn't work, when indeed then we really haven't, you know, gone through the whole process, or, you know, overcome any obstacles.
Yeah, that's just it. So all we did was add another step to the learning process. That didn't work. Well, okay, throw that one out. What's next? Oh, we're going to go back to what people say works. We can apply this to this book, to all these principles. All these people that Napoleon Hill has spoken with and observed, these are what they had in common. So why am I not putting those to use every single day?
Yeah, that's a great question. Why?
I get in my own way. You said it earlier. I'm just like you. I'm my biggest obstacle. It's right here. Gets in my way because I think too much, or I get to, you know, I overthink, or I just doesn't make sense to me. So even though I trust that they know what they're doing, I don't trust it enough to do it myself, you know.
Well, welcome to the human experience.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the human condition, really. I mean, you know, we are mammals, but we have the power to think. And truly, it can be to the point that it's our detriment in many instances. I mean, in the work I do, it totally gets in the way. You know, in birth, which is a normal physiological process, we mess it up. We overthink it. We've created.
I know.
the thing you have to
I've
learn
always
how to.
thought about that. It's like, how many thousands of years have women been giving birth?
Yeah, it's insanity. It's literally insanity. I mean, I was teaching a course this weekend, and it was about the after process. But point being, like after birth, as I'm teaching, I'm doing, and it's all these different topics, and I kept saying, this is not rocket science. You really don't need to come to this class to learn how to say to a new mother, how can I, what do you need from me today?
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple, but we've complicated everything because of this. So
Yeah.
it comes in handy, definitely, to have that power to think. However, when is it like, okay, forget about it, just, go with the gut. But I mean, obviously, whatever.
Well, that's where I truly believe the value lies in having yourself surrounded by the right people.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
even when I'm stuck in my own thoughts and the committee is in session, even though the committee is all on my side, it's still my own thoughts coming through the committee's mouth, right? It's just represented by the faces of these wonderful people, which of course makes it very easy to then rationalize, well, then, no, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't make any sense, or yes, because that is exactly what I think she would have said, even though I haven't asked her. Yeah.
Make it all up and make it true or not true, or
Yeah.
it's a circumstance, it's not, whatever. We can just keep doing
But
that.
continuous and regular communication with those that are interested in our success, I'm telling you, whatever that looks like, one-to-one, on a transactional level, whether it's somebody I've hired, my own business coach, I've got one, I've got an accountability partner, I'm in a mastermind group, I facilitate mastermind groups. It's coming together just at the spur of the moment to check in with somebody, to check my thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did that last night. Involved in a Facebook private group discussion where I had to step back because I wanted to be persistent about pushing through an idea, but the communication was getting lost in translation somewhere. So I checked my own thinking. I went to somebody I trusted, and with a quick, this is what I'm seeing. Am I on the right track, or is there another way I can be seeing this? I don't know. So, and here's the interesting thing. I asked two people. One saw it exactly as I did. One didn't. So what did I do? I said, well, it's really not that important. I'm going to bed. So because it wasn't going to take me anywhere in my business, or it took 10 minutes out of my time, and that was it. Different story if it was related to a sale or a customer. I would have gone deeper. I would have said, I need a face-to-face with somebody because I'm seeing two different things and I'm not able to get a handle on this. So if I could have a conversation just so I could get it out and hear myself say it, amazing things happen.
I guess that sounds to me like the part where you choose whether to be persistent. Like, is it worth me being, like, again, going back to desires and I guess going back to the little girl, I mean, I don't think she was clouded by all that. She just knew her mom said, go get that. And she went, that was it. That was the goal. And she wasn't going to let whatever he said or whatever stop her. It was like, this is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to do it. Yeah. But she clearly knew. And I think, to step back, at least for me, then even on a daily basis, what am I, supposed to be doing today? Like for me, I try to I try to get quiet in the morning and maybe listen to some positive, whatever, write, and set myself up. I don't always know what I'm supposed to be doing, but then if something shifts or somebody calls me, I say, all right, I'll go do that. Or no, I'm really focused right now. So sometimes I go with the flow, even though I have my list. Mm-hmm. So I don't get so caught up that I'm missing maybe something I'm supposed to be doing that will lead me to, whatever. Right. So it's like that balance of having the list and, being focused and determined at the same time, not missing, maybe there's something else I am supposed to be doing, and let me just be open to that.
Exactly. We decide how the day is going to go and how we work. See, you have taken structure and applied it to how it works for you.
Yeah.
You know, I have
Yeah.
a different set of structure and what gets my attention and why. Um, and so I apply it to myself. You know, Moses, I think that's your name. Welcome. Um, oh, so glad you're at the Sydney Harbor. Hello. Not seen you before, met you, and you can say hi from the live chat area. We're discussing the 50-cent lesson in persistence from chapter 1 of the book Think and Grow Rich. And that's what our focus is. Getting better, persistence, right? And then all the other things that came up in that short story. Every one of the principles we've talked about that showed up, right? It wasn't just about persistence. You know, that's the interesting part is, and I'm so glad everybody joined in on sharing what other things they got out of that story.
I like the thing about the age somebody said about, because we have that age discrimination in our society, whether it be a kid or an older person, that, oh, you're just a kid and, like, what do you know? Sometimes.
Oh, sometimes. Oh, we had that when I was a kid.
Yeah. I mean, we still have.
I grew up speaking as an adult because I didn't play with other kids. I was always surrounded by adults. So that separated me from other kids, but it also, sometimes can seem a bit precocious because I spoke to you as an adult, as an equal, not in terms of authority or mastery, if you will, but in the level of credibility. I know what I'm talking about. I've already researched it. I can show you the book. I know exactly what you're speaking of and why we're talking about it this way. The studies have shown. Yeah. I was
like 5. Were you like 5 years old?
No, I wasn't quite that young, but I was. When I was that's what I did. I sat with adults. So yeah.
Well, yeah, and then it's like sometimes people don't take you seriously if you're
little they do.
Or
Sometimes
you look younger or what.
Yeah, but that to me is the way I see that. Put it this way, the way I see that is individual, and it's in the small groups because that's all I can see it as. If I see it any further than that, then all I'm taking is my little group experiences over here and projecting them onto the rest of the world. Because I've been over the years in many situations where, as a 22-year-old, I was taken more seriously than the 50-year-old that was in the room. It was business. I was running a direct marketing firm. When as a 14-year-old, I was taken more seriously in the realm of writing and as an author than somebody else who didn't have the credibility that I had or the life experience. So I can look at those and there's that balance. Every experience that I've had that I was too old or I was too young, it's time for me to find other people so I can have the experience that I'm old enough or I'm young enough, right? That age doesn't matter. Gender, we could pick anything, couldn't we? We could pick anything and say that is to our detriment or that is not conducive to being paid attention to. But I think these principles teach us different. We persist. We do it anyway. Keep the forward momentum.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I just think it back then, with the little girl and the situation that I'm sure it's interesting how she ended up. And here's, like you said, the black, the white, the young, the old, all the things that we think, oh my gosh, that would never happen, could never happen, yet it did. And that's what we're asking, like, how, why, what?
All right. So the other side of it, let's look at the mill owner.
The white guy.
Yeah, the white adult male. He's at work and he's interrupted by this young child.
Mm.
And he doesn't take her seriously. You're interrupting me. You're an annoyance. Go away. And then goes about his work and she's there again. Well, what the heck? Put yourself in his shoes, right? What the heck? I told you to go away. I mean, today's language, right? I told you to go now. You can leave now. And I get this little polite, yes, sir. Now imagine this. So go back to work and heavy work, right? In the mill. It's got physical labor going on, focused attention on the project that he's working on, turns around and danged if she isn't still there. Now he has a temper anyway, so he's about ready to blow up, right? And I don't know how many times they went through that. We're only told the first 2 or 3. So finally he does blow up. You just won't go away. You annoy me. I want nothing to do with you right now. Could have said a bunch of things. Could have said, why don't you come back later? But he didn't. That's not who he is. So he blows up at her. But then all his is just coming from annoyance and frustration. He didn't like the interruption, right? But now he's met with this wall that says, I'm not going anywhere because this is what I came for. Oh. Because of where they're coming from, right? She has a level of responsibility that she has taken and takes seriously. So she's going to do what she was charged to do. He just happened to be interrupted for a few minutes and doing some of his work.
She got him at the right time because for him, his desire was for her to go away so he could get back to work. And the best way to do that was to give her the 50 cents.
Exactly. So there's another positive of the persistence. I'm just going to keep showing up until you give in. Now, so my own personal stories that's how my husband got me to date him. Literally showed up everywhere. Pool hall, at a restaurant, and a whole group of people at a private meeting. He shows up. I saw him at a hotel. I saw him in a drive-through. I mean, the man just was in front of me, constantly showing up. I hope that was an accident. Betsy, come back in if you want. Kept showing up, persistent. Not in the show up, but also in the asking. So, are you available for dinner? You want to go for a ride? I had to go out with him. I had to. Wear me down. I see, this is actually where I learned it from, and I'm not really good at it, is from my husband. He will just doggedly go after something. Now, I'm told I do the same thing when I get my teeth into something, that you can't sway me when I'm moving forward. This is it. You can come with me or not. It's going to get done. And I see it in myself a lot. The difference is that I don't exhibit it out in public a lot. It's a quiet, I'm doing what I need to do. Oh, you're in my way. Well, it was really nice meeting you. See you later. And, I'm not as loud as that little girl is. So, welcome back, dear.
I hung up by mistake. I was, on my tablet for the video, and I don't know what I did. Sorry.
Well,
it wasn't your story.
Thank you.
I like that story. Your husband was very persistent. He knew what he wanted.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah.
I tell young people that often. Unless she's because I wasn't giving him really strong signals of no. So it wasn't like, it was big annoyance and huge frustration or anything like that. When young people have asked us, how did we come together? It's one of the stories that I tell them, but I also tell them, pay attention to the responses and reactions, or else you'll scare the bejeebies out of her. Now you're stalking. But I was just kind of going with the flow and, being nice, and wasn't any big deal. And he just quietly kept showing up, and every once in a while would ask me out. Not going to be able to do that today. no, maybe some other time. So, of course, the signals were there that he could keep trying.
Mm. Good story. Good
So, yeah,
story.
can't we apply that to our own lives, though?
Yeah.
Haven't you done that when it came to creating your game, when it came to
Mm.
getting on the Amazon catalog, when it came to getting it sold to offices, you know, chiropractic or otherwise?
Well, yeah, not yet. Not there yet, but I've got the catalogs on the Amazon. But yeah, I mean, definitely not listening to other people's negativity was important even from the very beginning. But and having, I think, like you said, have said over and over, writing down what are your goals, what's the plan, putting it into action. And then, yeah, when an obstacle or what I perceived as an obstacle, was in the way or is in the way, okay, well, what else can I do, or how else can I, or who else can I enroll to help me,
Mm-hmm.
to get where I want to be? Because everything in this, all this reading, it's clear as a bell that there's no way you can do anything all like on an island. That's a given.
Yep.
In all of this, if I learn nothing else, and I've been learning that, and I've been in business for over 20 years, but it's been, at times a business and at times a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I was actually, I had people working for me, and I was in a different area, and it was growing. But then I had my second son, and I scaled back purposefully. For me, it was too much to have people working for me working, trying to, family. It was like, so I just knew my limits. But at that time, I didn't have the wherewithal to, let me, bring someone in. Or I think there was attempts at that. But for me, it was just better to just scale back on purpose because it worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, 19 years later. Okay, I'm ready for the final push before I can retire. I'm in my 50s. It's like, okay, I got 10 years. Woo,
Let's hit it hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. The only way that I was able to grow my business was with the help of other people. And it looks like, sometimes it looks like outsourcing the tasks. I have a virtual assistant. And it means in one instance, it looks like I'm just going to bring on a salesperson for something else, maybe to sell some of the training and workshops that I've got, which, by the way, if you're interested, call me. It'd be on a commission basis, but there's actually another program that I am going to be going full force in that I generate the leads and just hand it over to the person to make the calls. Bring the leads in, you make the call. And that way I don't have to spend the time going through an entirely different sales process than what I do with social selling and what I do now in lead generation. So, yep.
It works.
Got to have other people.
Yeah, it works. It's clear
basically it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and then there's always this to me, it's a saving thought, because I used to think, well, I'm supposed to be able to do all this.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got that thought, but I had it. I'm supposed to, right? But to me, the saving thought was there are 7 billion people on this planet.
Yeah.
Think about that for 7 billion. If I was meant to be alone, there wouldn't be 7 billion others of you out there. That's my saving. That's my reminder to myself is come on, really?
But how do we get that message? Why? Like we get that message, I think, which starts from an early age. Individual and competition and yay, you got the A,
that can be part of it.
I mean, we're not
part of it. Mine came from being told to always think for yourself. Go look it up, right? Go look it up. Don't come to the debate unprepared. If you're going to engage in an argument at the dinner table, turn it into a debate and now go get prepared for it. Yes, that's
Well, think about it in school. I mean, most kids go to the, public school, and it isn't about collaboration and critical thinking so much as it is, cut a hole and pour it in,
right.
and then you individually get your A. I mean, this is group work, and but I mean, as a general rule, I think it starts there with we're not
Well,
putting
it definitely starts when we're
collaboration.
young.
Yeah,
It definitely.
yeah.
But then again, now look at team sports. I was not involved in team sports. Pretty much everything that I did was solitary. All the things I enjoyed doing was solitary. So I didn't have the benefit of learning to work within a team at a young
Mm,
age,
mm,
male or female, regardless. If you join a team sport, you are going to be coached to be part of a team. You have to, because your work will affect everybody else. And I wasn't. That was my choice. I wasn't interested in the team stuff.
mm.
So I think, that makes a difference too. How many successful people today, many, trust me, I've looked, were members of a sport team
Oh, a lot, right? Most
when
of
they
them?
were young? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Leaders, right, often were honed their leadership as a member of a team or as a captain or, in their late teens, early 20s. Many of them did that. Others,
Yeah.
I'm a late bloomer. I don't have any problem with that. I've always been a late bloomer. You say, okay, it's my turn now. Age doesn't matter. It's time.
At least we get to figure it out before we leave this planet,
There you go.
Yay.
Or at least try to. Be willing
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, be willing. Well, be willing. I think the willingness and the awareness is, the more people that wake up and become conscious, the better off we'll
Mm-hmm.
all be. And
Now,
once you're
see,
awake, you can't go
there's
back.
there's another thing we can take out of the story, right? Is being willing to be persistent, be willing to do what needs to be done to get the job done.
Yeah.
I think that's important too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's backed by the desire, isn't it? It's backed by the what I'm charged with doing right now. And I have the desire for the result of the action I'm going to take. I may not have the desire for the doing part. I may be doing it begrudgingly, but I do have the desire for the result that it will bring me. And that can often and does often propel me through, I think Matt said, work through the issue, to work through the disinterest or the tediousness or the ick or the anxiety of doing something that I'd rather not. But I know it works, so I'm doing it.
Yeah, you got to want it bad enough. That's
There you
really
go.
what, right?
Yep, that's a simpler way of saying all that. Thank you.
Well, no, well, I mean, that's what I was hearing from
True.
you. It's like,
True.
and
You
that's,
want,
that's every minute, it's just a new desire. Like now, like I want to be here talking to you. I'm also thinking, I would like more coffee, but I'll get it in a minute. So, what's more important?
yeah.
That's it, really, Yeah.
In a nutshell, just how important is it to you? Well, in this story, it was really important to this little girl.
Yes.
There was no swaying her. And I know that all of us have seen and met people just like that. And I'm wondering if all of us haven't at one time or another been like that ourselves. I have.
Yeah.
I have. And it's, I'm just going to go back to my marriage. My husband says, when we make a decision, he who puts her foot down is the decision that gets made. So it's when there's conflict in making a decision, it's really the final outcome is based on who feels the most strongly, who is willing to put the foot down, plant the flag, stake the claim, and say, this is the way we're going to go. And if we're that determined and that persistent about it, and the other really isn't, it's more of a matter of a disagreement, then it's all right, that's how we go. Yeah, I've planted my I've planted my stake. I've laid my claim. I've put my foot down numerous times. That's what I mean. Part of what they call me in the family, is stubborn, one-track minded. And the persistence is, here's what it can look like. I'm remembering the conversations I've had over the years with people, that you can wear somebody down by ever so gently, always reminding them of what it is that you want from them. Doesn't have to be yelling like what she did. She was put in a position that she had to, and that might mean that for that I have to push through that last bit and be more firm or what have you. But I have sat quietly, and my husband says that this is what he loves about watching me at work. When somebody's trying to convince me to do something I don't want to do, talk about persistence, for days, I will have somebody come after me. No, thank you. That's all I say. No, thank you. No. And they'll change the story. They'll come up with, no. And they'll try to make me feel guilty. Well, why don't you do this? Everybody else is doing this. Oh, thank you. And when I've got it set in my mind, and he just watches me and says, how do you do that? I said, in my mind, I've already made the decision. You're just an annoying gnat. I've already decided this is what the outcome is. You can't sway it. You do not have that influence over me. So that comes into persistence as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Your own determination and persistence to be clear, to make that choice and not let anything, like the guy could have been, this is not happening and I'm just gonna, but for whatever reason with the exchange with him and the little girl, that's not the place he was at. Like in his mind, he wasn't saying, I'm absolutely not giving this 50 cents to this little girl.
I don't think that had played any part. I don't think that played any part in that conversation that they had or that interaction they had. His was, what the impression I get is his was solely based on, you are interrupting me.
Yeah, you're an annoyance. You're in my way. I want to get back to work. Have your 50 cents and leave me alone.
Yeah.
That's what happened. But if he had been, for whatever reason in some other frame of mind and been saying, no, I'm focused and, but that's just not how it went down. Because each of the places where they were coming from.
Okay.
That's how it interchanged because of where she was at and then where he was at.
Exactly.
And that's how it played out.
Good stuff. All right, we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to close out the recording portion. We'll keep the room open for a little bit and do the discussion. Please, great being talked about here and in the comment section. Thank you for joining me on the live stream, Betsy. Thank you for the comments and the participation from the chat. Great participation. Thank you for those watching, from above, and those watching the replay. Thanks for hanging in with us this long. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouKnow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.